Do you like what you're hearing? Do you want to hear more? You can. Thanks to the excellent host blogtalkradio.com. You can hear this episode and others later at blogtalkradio.com, Bram Sarkowski. That's blogtalkradio.com/BRAMSARKOWSKI. Check us out. Click the link and get the conversation going. Thanks for listening. You're listening to the Social Spitball Show on blogtalkradio.com with your host, Bram Sarkowski, and featuring co-host Barbara D. Now, let's rejoin the conversation. Okay, and I am back, Bram Sarkowski with Barbara D. Second on the show is Mr. Will Stewart, who's running for U.S. Senate. Mr. Stewart, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, I am. How are you tonight?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, sir?
I'm phenomenal. I'm glad I could be on here with you and Dee.
All right.
Miss D, rather.
All right. Well, she's on here too. Well, now you're a Democrat running for the U.S. Senate, and that's in North Carolina, and you're running against an incumbent, Kay Hagan, who's currently in the Senate. And I was reading up a little bit about you. You're a former carpenter, I believe, and you're also, you work on computers and you do some other things. It sounds like you're very manual, hands kind of guy. You like to fix things and build things, but you say that you're a kind of the common man. Would that be fair to say?
I think it's a pretty good generalization. I'm a bit of an intellect as well. I keep it pretty hidden. It's hidden by most of my history. But, I do work on computers, and
right.
That in itself speaks a little bit to my ability to think. So I'm more of a out of the box type person. I like to look at myself more like that. I learned how to fix computers by myself. I knew how to build a lot of stuff before I ever actually entered the construction industry. You might have saw on my bio that I was doing a lot of out of the ordinary things in my teens. Like fixing electronics and building bicycles and kind of just very entrepreneurial at a very young age.
Hey, and just, Mr. Stewart, I do apologize. I wasn't trying to insinuate that you don't have any intelligence. I certainly see that you have great intelligence based on your bio. I just meant that you're someone that likes to get in and build things and fix things and figure things out. So,
well, it was all tongue in cheek. Don't worry about it, man.
Okay, I appreciate it. I just wanted to make it clear.
I'm giving you a hard time back. That's all.
Hey, that's no problem. I deserve it. Well, we always like to ask our guests about what does your district look like, but obviously you've got the whole state of North Carolina. So in lieu of describing a district, all three of us and others listening know that North Carolina goes from the coast, Murphy to Manio. It goes from the Outer Banks to the coastal plains, to the Piedmont, and then to the mountains. How much of it have you seen since you declared for U.S. Senate?
Frankly, I haven't really traveled too much out of my own territory. I'm running a very low-budget campaign by myself. Most of the other candidates have, huge campaign committees, campaign managers, and stuff like that. Most of my struggle was actually, wading through the legal documentation with the Federal Elections Commission and state elections law. Muddling through that is quite the task in and of itself, especially when you're not a lawyer and you've got to look up and compare different laws and make sure that you're going to be in compliance. I found that the laws for somebody like me, who's obviously not very in the forefront, I haven't raised a whole lot of money. I think I've raised about $150 since I've started, which isn't much. I mean, it's a lot more than I anticipated. So, in that sense, I'm doing pretty well. I haven't raised a dime from corporate interest, so I'd like to pat myself on the back for that.
As well,
but I think I'm doing pretty well considering the fact that I haven't traveled the state. my girlfriend and I of 7 years, we actually share a vehicle, and she works, 5 days out of the week locally. So it's kind of out of, it's kind of out of the question unless I can, by some miracle, raise a little bit more money. It's kind of out of the question to travel the state. But I've made do with, the technology that's at my fingertips,
right.
namely social media, Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that. And I've done a little advertising with the little bit of cash that I have, made sure to target the right people that I think that would vote for me in the primary. And I believe, honestly, that I would move people, not necessarily that are already part of the voting rhythm, but people who have kind of been disenfranchised, withdrawn from the system and decided, hey, this isn't really working for me. I don't trust the government anymore. I think that those people, if they see somebody that is addressing their issues, the real everyday issues, not some political talking points or media spin. I think when people address real issues that affect real people, then they might actually respond to the political system.
Right. Well, I mean, one thing that I will say for you is that you are what people are looking for. Okay, they're looking for folks who aren't entrenched in the system like you're talking about. We've talked on here several shows in recent maybe month or so. We've talked about the move to amend to take money out of politics, and I really think that I personally believe that it should be taken out of politics. I think we should public fund that there was public funding for a time, but that's gone away. But I just think that it's ridiculous how much money is put in to put, like you were talking about, you didn't take any corporate money. I commend you for that. I would probably go the same route, and unfortunately that puts you in a position where you can't maybe get the big donors because they're they like to gravitate towards those who do take corporate money. Let me ask you this. I mean, you've been. I saw a cartoon that I was looking at your Facebook page, and I obviously you've got a good sense of humor and you're a good sport because you put it on your page. But it's a cartoon, I think, from the mountain side of the state, saying that it's got Kay Hagan and it's got Tom Tillis, and they're both kind of got their boxing gloves on, and then you're down there with your boxing gloves on, but they're both saying, "Oh, that's cute." Basically, you're a smaller being than they are. What motivated you to put that on your site? And how does that make you feel?
I obviously was amused by it. It didn't
right.
really bother me. I knew going into this that I would be marginalized. I'm just an everyday person. I don't have the political connections that, say, Tom Tillis or Kay Hagan has, and I kind of fancy that. I think that works to my benefit. Also, I believe that all the voters who aren't voting that could vote are going to be motivated by somebody who's not in that picture. If I'm not Kay Hagan and Tom Tillis, and I am the kind of the third wheel, then I believe that that will motivate people. I think my biggest challenge is actually getting my message to people, and I think for me it was a beautiful depiction of exactly what's going on. I obviously it was kind of a stab at me, and it didn't really bother me a whole lot. It is what it is. It's just
right.
It's kind of reality, and it was joke or not, it was a great depiction of what's going on. I think it kind of highlights the problem in politics right now. I mean, just look at the fact that Ernest T. Reeves is running in the Democratic primary, and you barely hear anything about him at all. Him and I were both invited to a debate in Charlotte on the 22nd, and I actually agreed to the debate thinking that Kay Hagan was going to be there, but I found out that Kay Hagan's not going to be there, so I actually rescinded my agreement to go. But the thing is, there's no point for us to go, him and I, to go there and actually debate each other if the front runner isn't going to be there. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I can see that point, but I just to counter you a little bit, I would say that if the two of you showed up, and if it was a sizable event, I mean, you're trying to reach voters, and I think just the fact that you would show up, period, would speak volumes. There are people who are, dead set on voting for Kay Hagan no matter what. Okay, and that's just the nature of the beast, like you were talking about. But I think that the fact that you committed to go it speaks volumes about your character and about what kind of candidate you are. Another thing, I will say this, and I'm giving you a bit of a compliment here, but you were the only one that responded to our invitation to be on the show, and so we're very grateful and honored to have you on. Because
to be frank, I actually, what is it, Barry Sensa? Is that his name, Barry Sensa?
Right.
He invited me, and I actually declined because I was actually, when we had talked, I was actually considering withdrawing from the race, and because of how poorly my campaign was going. And, I actually declined, and I noticed 2 days ago through Barbara that you guys were actually promoting it, and I didn't want to make anybody look like a jackass, including myself, obviously. So I decided to go ahead and show up. So,
hey, we'd be good company, wouldn't we? So
yeah.
I think we're the good guys. So, but that being said, I have committed myself to make YouTube versions of interviews for candidates who agree to come on the show. So you're going to get that from me in the next couple of days. I know the primary's coming up. We're here in North Carolina. We understand what you're up against, and so being able to get your message out is extremely important. So I understand that, and I will work very hard to get that to you as quickly as possible after this evening. That being said, I'm not letting Barbara talk at all. So let me back off.
Oh, no, poor Barbara.
Yeah, let me back off a bit and let her come back into the conversation. Before I do bring her back in, I did want you to tell a little bit more about yourself. So if you'll just tell a little bit more about your background. You mentioned the girlfriend of 7 years and a bit of your work history, but I think the voters probably want to know who you are. So if you'll share that, and I'll bring Barbara back on for a question after that.
Well, I'm just an average guy. I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. I've been all over the country. Some of that's partly because of the fact that I was born to a military family. The rest of it is because my mom was a little unstable. After she divorced. My childhood is a little bit complex, but I'll try and get through that as quickly as possible. I did come of age in Columbus, Ohio. I started doing construction there. I moved on to Michigan, then I came here. I did a little bit of construction in Florida, and then I came back here when I finally settled down in, I believe it was 2007. So I've been in North Carolina since 2007. In 2008, the housing market actually collapsed, and I wasn't able to continue doing construction. So I had to look for other ways to make income. As a hobby, I'd actually been tinkering with computers for quite a few years, kind of because I was a gamer. In my free time, I gamed a lot, and I learned a lot about computers in the process. And when I was in Florida actually doing construction, my girlfriend had tried to get her computer repaired locally and got charged $180 to get it repaired and didn't actually get it repaired. She got it back in the same condition she brought it to them. When I came back, I considered that, and I decided that I was going to lowball everybody in town. I lowballed everybody in town. I charged a $20 flat rate for the first 2 years of my business, and became really successful. After 2 years, I realized that there was a customer that was actually taking advantage of me and actually making a profit off of my service, and that kind of negated what I was trying to do. So I raised my prices to $40. I've been charging $40 for the last 4 years, and I've been pretty successful at it. I moved away from Wilmington 2 years ago, which is where I started my business. I actually started in a boarding house. It was a house full of crack addicts, ironically, in one of the worst neighborhoods in Wilmington. And I noticed that there was a need. It all kind of came together. But I noticed there was a need for people to fix computers at an affordable price, and these people couldn't afford it. Even if they weren't crack addicts, maybe they were neighbors or something, but they couldn't afford to take their computer to somebody that was going to charge them $40, $50 an hour to fix it. So, I tried to give them a remedy. I gave them a remedy, and I fixed a lot of computers. I still do a lot of business with those people. And, I moved out of Wilmington 2 years ago to a more rural area, and I've lost a lot of business since then. In a lot of ways, that's a good thing because I can actually, breathe a lot easier, and I don't have, people breathing down my neck, come fix my computer. But it's a very demanding business, especially when you're doing it affordably like I was doing, and that's what I do. I loved it when I first started. It kind of got a little cumbersome as I went on because you realize that some people are taking advantage of you, and it's just like, defeated the whole purpose.
Yeah.
But I actually decided to run. I decided to run this year. I was creating New Year's Eve. I was creating a New Year's resolution, and there were a number of resolutions I had. And I decided that I wanted to actually challenge Kay Hagan. I didn't like a lot of things she was doing. You know, she voted against the DREAM Act. She voted against the Democrats, against a tobacco bill that was supposed to help prevent tobacco use. And I happen to be a smoker, which happens to be one of my other resolutions, which I'm actually on day 13 now of quitting smoking. Patting myself on the back.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. The secret is cinnamon candy. That's what I learned. If you use cinnamon candy, it works really well. But if you're listening and you're a smoker and you want to quit, give it a shot. That advice is free. Next time, I'm going to have to charge you.
Well, I'm sure the liberal kitty is paying attention, and maybe she'll take your advice. Carry on.
I was just going to say, we have a couple of things in common. You were born in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I went to kindergarten there, so before it was a state, so that shows how old I am. But it's an awesome place. And the other thing is, I have seen some of your signs. You have a couple of signs out, right?
Oh, if I have signs out, I've got some really great followers because I have no idea.
I go in your county. I'm a property inspector, and so I do travel through there. So I have seen some because I noticed the name. Yeah, someone's put some signs out for you. Somebody cares about you. So.
Well, if you're listening, I love you. Thank you so much. That means the world to me.
Shout out.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out. Next time I'm down that way, which will probably be later in the week, I'll take some pictures for you and send them to you. So
I love that. I don't get out a whole lot. So,
right. Yeah, I understand. If you were elected, what do you feel about the unemployment here? What can you do for the unemployment here in North Carolina? You were talking about construction, and we know that's not very busy or profitable thing right now in North Carolina. But what would you do?
Well, the first thing we need to do is get banks to start loaning money out to our entrepreneurs. I know that I've run my business for 6 years, and the bank won't even think twice about loaning me any money. And that's not good, because I actually have a business model that'll work. And, if I could get the financing to actually give payroll, I could actually serve a lot more people and actually employ people. And I think that the fact that the lending system is so stringent, it actually has an adverse effect on entrepreneurial people who want to grow their business but just simply can't because they can't take their business to the next level. I know that if I was to pick up somebody, I would be breaking less than even. I would actually be running in debt. But if I could get a loan with, say, a month worth of salary, then I could actually pay somebody to help generate the revenue I need to compensate and make up for that loan. I believe that what we need to do is get the banking industry, who we happen to bail out after the 2008 housing market collapse. We need to get them to loosen controls of the money a little bit and help these struggling entrepreneurs out. I don't believe that we need to be depending on people like TransCanada to create jobs when their only interest is the bottom line. We need to be getting people who genuinely care about the community and are willing to put that money back into the community to generate jobs. Obviously, the government can create jobs. I don't think that that's the answer. I think that the top-down approach is not going to work. I think that we need a grassroots approach where people use their gifts and their benefits and expound on that. I think that we need to just help support our entrepreneurs. I think that's the best way to summarize it.
Okay, that's a good answer. Now, you're not that far from Camp Lejeune. How would I know that, because I drive all the time around there? How do you feel that the Congress has been ignoring the needs of the veterans? And what are your feelings on the military? And what could you do if you were elected senator?
Well, I think the number one need that is kind of the elephant in the room that nobody really wants to talk about is if you want to support our troops, you need to bring them home. It's time to bring our troops home and put an end to all these crazy wars and just give our servicemen a break. I think, I don't hear anybody talking about bringing them home. And I think that right now that's the best thing we can do. We've suffered a little over a decade of war, And I think it's time to take a break and give our country time to heal. You know, on top of that, we need to keep our promises to our vets. You know, if they expect a cost of living adjustment, then we should never be balancing the budgets on their backs and taking their money. So I believe, you know, it's all about keeping your promise and you know, actually showing that you care. And I believe that showing you care means ending the foreign wars and ending the wars of aggression and bringing our troops home.
Okay. Do you have any specific ideas that you would implement if you could for our state and our veterans? Because, you know, between Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, that's a lot of people. I don't know the exact amount, but
yeah, I think I've got a Navy chaplain friend of mine that lives in Landfall. I'm sure you probably know where that is, but or not Landfall, Porter's Neck, right outside of Figure 8 Island. But I think he told me that North Carolina actually houses 400,000 or 500,000 troops. And I don't know how accurate that number is, but I will cite him for that number. And if there's anything wrong with it, we can look at him for it. But I think that you know, we've got to make sure that they're getting their benefits first of all. You know, if they're told they're getting benefits when they're getting out, they deserve their benefits. They're coming home, it's too hard to get their benefits, or they're being held back by the bureaucracy through the VA system. We've got to streamline that, make it easier, stop slowing people down. It's especially disastrous when you're dealing with people with post-traumatic stress disorder who are already, you know, kind of struggling with other mental issues. I mean, that's exactly what happened in the recent Fort Hood shooting. The guy was trying to get a leave of absence for his family, and he was already dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and they told him no. We really got to be more mindful of the mental health condition of our troops, and we need to take what we've already got and make it work the way it's supposed to. I think that the biggest problem that I see, and it's pretty much government wide, is that we've got all these programs that are supposed to be doing this, that, or the other thing, and they're really just not doing anything at all, or they're not doing enough, or what they should be doing. The process of getting your benefits when you're through the VA system is far too complicated. You know, if I want to go apply for food stamps, that process is too complicated, too arduous, not as open and available as it should be. You know, the list goes on and on. But I think the biggest problem our government faces is the lack of oversight. We've got all these systems in place, and nobody's watching them to make sure they work properly.
Good answer.
Right, yeah, very good answer. Especially, like you say, for our veterans, there just seems to me that there needs to be more things in place, and a central place where a veteran could go. You know, instead of having to go 6 different places, go one place and take care of all of your business, I guess you could say. You know.
Yeah, that would
help them. Again, with jobs too.
That would save us money, and it would help them, you know. And it would also build camaraderie, because you've got all these vets in one central location. They can actually communicate with each other, and that actually will build healing. You know, how did you deal with this issue? How did you deal with this issue? You know, that's how drug addicts deal with it, through AA and NA and stuff like that. You know, they get together and they talk about what's going on, and there's really not that kind of community. So I think your idea is actually great, and I'll add that to my future discussions on the issue.
Okay.
But there is no one right answer. I think that the answers come from people like you and people like me, just everyday people who have ideas. It doesn't take multi-million-dollar think tanks to come up with common sense solutions. You know, in fact, I find more often than not that the multi-million-dollar think tanks are coming up with solutions that benefit primarily them and actually have little to do with the actual solution.
Correct.
So very true.
Very correct. Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think that the ideas should come from folks like you and Barbara and me and Ron and Marshall and all of them. And I think we were talking about the money. We need to get the money out of politics. We also need to get it to where folks like us can come up to a congressperson or a U.S. senator and they be accessible. I think some are. I'm not saying that they aren't, all of them, but I think in general, because and it ties to the money, I think, because there's so many millionaires in Congress, they think that they're so untouchable, and, you know, it's like the emperor has no clothes. I mean, you know, you need to listen to the people, because, I mean, just listening to you, I mean, God, you can solve so many problems real quick. So, anyway, Barbara?
Yeah, as you well know, here in our state we've got a lot of good teachers that are going to other states because of our state policies and, cutting into education. I know that that's not particularly a federal thing, but what would you do to help public education here in North Carolina?
Well, I think that I really, frankly, I don't know what I would do, but I would look into ways to fix that. I think that the current situation where our teachers, I believe their teachers are ranked 54th in 54th. I don't think that's right. I think it's 44th in national pay, and pay nationally, and I think that's it's absurd. I believe that's completely outright absurd, and and we're supposed to have one of the most coveted education systems in the U.S., and I think that's just outright wrong. And I would definitely look into maybe a federal minimum wage for teachers to even obviously we're looking at a federal minimum wage in general, but the recent implementation by McCrory and the General Assembly did little, if anything at all, to actually affect teachers who have been they've been working as teachers for a long time, or more than a year. They try to tout it as if it was some amazing thing, but it really didn't do anything for people who have been serving our public for a long time, and I think it's just an embarrassment, honestly.
Yeah, it amazes me. We have these wonderful universities like UNC, Chapel Hill, Duke, Wake Forest, AT&T. North Carolina, and yet we're not preparing our students because we keep cutting these budgets. And it just amazes me. And somewhere along the line, it's got to stop so that we can get back to being the education state.
Right.
I agree. I think that of all the things I'm grateful for, I don't know if you're how familiar you are with my story, but I grew up in really rough neighborhoods. A lot of my friends are in prison or dead. A lot of the guys that I grew up with, and one of the benefits I had was the public education system, and I'm grateful that I had a really good education system. And back then, I kind of looked a gift horse in the mouth. I dropped out in 9th grade. I went on to get my GED my graduating year. But, I'm very grateful for the education that I got. And it was because the teachers had what they needed to teach me, and that they were obviously being paid well, and they were happy with their job. I had some of the best teachers, that I can ever imagine. But I attribute that to them having the financing they needed. I remember the one time the art teacher was actually talking about how her budget got cut. The art teacher did, and that was kind of the downward spiral for our school system up there. But even then, she was still getting a decent paycheck, so she was really optimistic about it, and she made a joke out of it with the paint. I still joke with my girlfriend today using this, but she would be like, "Well, a dab will do you," and she'd be referencing the paint that you put on your tray to paint with. And we took some budget cuts, but a dab will do you. So I thought it was cute, and I kind of live by that now. Try to.
Mr. Stewart, I hate that we have to wrap it up because I am enjoying this conversation, but I wish you could know the audience of folks that are listening to you talk. The gentleman who's coming up next is running for Congress. You said a lot of things that he cares about, things that motivated him to run. My own mom, who is a retired art teacher, is on the line, and she had to go through, a dab will do you years there for a little while. So you're really speaking to the folks. I'm very impressed, and I'm very grateful that you came on our show. I'm very serious about the YouTube thing. I just finished 2 this weekend for 2 other candidates, and I will do that for you this week within the next 2 or 3 days. But that being said, I want to invite you to stay on the line to listen to Ron Sanyal for Congress, who's coming up next, and be there for the discussion at the end. But we want to offer you a chance to let folks know how they can get out the vote for you, how they can donate to you because you need some money to get your message out, and just in general help you. So if you'll share that, and then we'll take a break.
Okay. You can visit my website at www.willcstewart.com. That's Will, C as in cat, Stewart, social.spitball.com. You can volunteer. There's a volunteer link there. There's a contribute link there. If you don't want to do that, there's other ways to do it. You can go to Cafe Press, design your own signs, put your own candidates on there. If I'm in someone you'd be interested in voting for, throw my name on there. If not, do what you want. But I think that voters have a lot more power than they think they do. They just have to take the initiative, and it all really comes down to you. I don't really want your money. I want your vote, and I think that's really all it comes down to.
Yes, absolutely. And just for his sake and for the sake of other candidates who are running in the primary, Democratic primary or Republican, in North Carolina, the primary is Tuesday, May 6th. Early voting starts April 24th and runs through May 3rd. And you can find out from your local county boards of elections when the hours are in your county. So thank you, Mr. Stewart, for being on, and please stay on the line and listen, and hope to hear from you at the end of the show if you've got the time. I understand if you don't, but we do appreciate you being on the show.
Likewise,
yes,
thank you, Bram. Thank you, Ms. D.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll be right back after a short break.